The most under-the-radar move for the Denver Broncos this entire offseason is going to propel them to the playoffs, and that is a money-back I'm just trying to throw Bo into everything, but it's going to get us back into the playoffs. We got a ton to break down with this story and this scoop here, and we got news about who's going to be playing in the preseason game, that and so much more in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm Ben. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan. It really helps me out a lot, helps the YouTube algorithm out if you would like and subscribe if you actually believe in these Denver Broncos. So diving in here, last week of the preseason, I love that we're only talking 3 games in the preseason, and Diana Rossini talked about how really this is where teams are built and actually contend for the playoffs. And Sean Payton has talked all about it. Like, we're not just competing against each other. You're competing against dudes on every single one of these 53-man rosters. If you think back to the last time we were in the Super Bowl, sure, we won because of Vaughn and DeMarcus, but if it wasn't for cats like C.J. Anderson, like a late-round dude, right? Bradley Roby, Shaquille Barrett, like we had a lot of, like you had the stars, like a Pat Surtain, and then you backed it up with a deep roster that propelled us there, and you can go through pretty much any Super Bowl team and see that it's like that back of the roster 53 that helps you get to the playoffs, and I think we are in very good shape for that because we know Sean Payton is like the most intentional, busy dude ever. He basically has a bed inside of Broncos Park, and he lives there. He decides on what color the Gatorade is and what logo you're going to spray paint, and he's got all these people to lead and run. And so how on earth is Sean Payton out there scouting all of the rest of the 53-man rosters? Well, little do most of the national media give us any credit for, but this is where having the richest owner in sports truly helps you out, because we have a guy whose literal job it is to like identify Sean Payton's exact system and say like, hey, what fits for this system and where are we going to find that talent elsewhere throughout the rest of the NFL? And that is David Shaw. And I think that is a crazy, crazy move that the Denver Broncos have, that if you look throughout NFL history, there are a ton of times where you see a player pop off in a team who got cut from their 53-man roster. So like do you remember that like James Harrison was a Baltimore Raven before he went and balled out of control with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Same thing, Wes Welker was a Charger before he was a Patriot and before he was a Jet. And so there's times all the time where like a guy you cut then goes and balls out other places. And same thing, Danny Woodhead. One of the reasons that the Patriots made it as far as they did is they had one of the biggest front offices in the league. And that's what we have now, because we truly have the richest owner in sports who prints money and invests it in this team. It's exactly what Kroenke did with the Rams, which is why they were able to win the Super Bowl several years ago. That I got in a big fight. I'm on this AFC West roundtable, and I talked about how having the richest owner in sports is an advantage. And the Chiefs fan like got on me and he's like, what is that going to do? And I'm just like, are you like a dummy, man? Like, of course, if you have the best facilities, the best coaches, and then you have like a massive front office, it's going to make a difference. And we're going to compare the Broncos front office to some of the like cheaper teams in the league. And you're just you scroll for days until you're at the bottom of the Broncos front office. And that's not always how it has always been here. And I think it's a crazy, crazy advantage. Like Kyle Van Noy, again, before he went to the Patriots and balled out of control, cut by the Lions. And so David Shaw has a crazy history of being able to identify talent that fits a specific system. And of all people in the entire NFL, I don't know a better person for it than that. Like, he had the biggest creative constraint ever as the head coach for Stanford, because you have this very narrow box of like, hey, I need a player that does this and also has the grades to get into my school. And finding guys like Christian McCaffrey, Andrew Luck, he was very pinned in at like what he could go out and find, and he did it, and was one of the winningest coaches there, and took a school that was not known for football and has not been known for football since he left. And 12 years of a head coach there in Palo Alto, 42 NFL draft picks, and that is unheard of. Like, CU is not even going to have 42 draft picks in 12 years, and we got Coach Prime. And so I think this is just a crazy, crazy sneaky advantage that we have. And the fact is, like, he's going to be able to be remote, and he and Sean Payton are in very close alignment. The other really cool thing about David Shaw is that he worked really side by side with Jim Harbaugh. And so if anyone knows how to like build a team that can stop Harbaugh, if all the hype around Harbaugh and what he's going to do with the Chargers is true, who better to be able to stop that and build a defense that can defend against the run and defend against what Harbaugh wants to do than a guy who coached alongside of him. And so I think that's an insane advantage. So if you just look here at what can the richest owner in sports do when they actually put money in your team and it's not a tax write-off, and looking through this list and just seeing how different this would be. I loved Pat Bowlen. He did so much for this franchise, and we have 3 Super Bowls because of Pat Bowlen. But seeing how it's gone to just a total different level, and just some of the big ads that we've had because of the insane amount of monopoly money we can just throw at people. So looking right off the bat right here, we got Cody Rager. He's a vice president of player personnel. He was a scout in New Orleans, and the only way to get him from New Orleans here was to give him that vice president role. So you're printing money and throwing it at him. There's so many positions on this entire document. I'm not kidding, where like you would get lost. There's too many words on this page, just because of how much money and how many different new positions we have. And so brand new position there in Cody Rager. We're one of the only teams, as I've been doing quick research here, that also has a full-time assistant head coach right here in Westhoff. We went out and got Carmichael, again, a brand new position there, a senior offensive assistant, another Sean Payton guy. So for everyone who says Sean Payton just burns bridges and no one likes him, there are so many former New Orleans Saints dudes here who Sean Payton's like, that's my guy. And they're like, no, you're my guy, Sean. I want to go with you. That's a massive, massive position there. Looking here, a couple other huge ones. Davis Webb. There are a lot of people who wanted Davis Webb to like be an offensive coordinator. If Bo Nix hits like we think he will. Davis Webb will be an offensive coordinator in the league and definitely have a shot at that. But then obviously seeing Vance Joseph has had head coaching experience as well. Lombardi being an offensive coordinator for the Chargers, we're really stacked here. Jim Leonard being our defensive backs coach there. Jim Leonard interviewed for multiple defensive coordinator roles and turned them down because he's getting paid more to be a DB coach here than he is to be a defensive coordinator elsewhere. And so then you're talking, look at all of these new player personnel roles that we're talking about, and we have a whole football and technology and research thing. They're crunching analytics with the help of Walmart, who's competing against Amazon for home delivery. They have crazy AI systems, and we're just in a very, very good place here that as we are watching football this last week unfold, and it is a bunch of backups, knowing that if there are players cut from those 53-man rosters, you better believe that David Shaw is going to see which one of those fits Sean Payton's system perfectly, and let's plug them in here. And so that is something we should be very, very excited about. So if you look at one of the leaner, the Chicago Bears run a very lean system as well, and this looks like a lot of dudes because it's pictures, so it just takes up more real estate on your computer. But the Buffalo Bills coaching staff and front office is about half of the size of the Denver Broncos. And so if you have a great leader who can empower the people under them to go and kick butt in what they do, you're in good shape. Obviously, like if Sean Payton's a bumbling idiot and can't lead those guys, it doesn't matter if we have 100 guys in our front office, but we know that Sean Payton can give marching orders and have them executed. It's exactly what he did in New Orleans. And so I just think that is a very, very good situation. So as we're watching this last week of preseason football, what are the position groups you think that David Shaw and Sean Payton should have their eye out to add talent to this Denver Broncos roster before we hit the actual regular season? I think having after losing Quinn Bailey, I think another swing offensive lineman would be a huge thing. I think somehow like getting a backup center, or could a starting center not make the 53 or something like that? How are we feeling about the inside linebacker position? How are we feeling about the safety position? Very curious what all y'all think, what our priorities should be here. Either way, we have a ton to look forward to. We are going to shock the world, and I think everybody knows it and feels it here in Broncos country because we have always believed.